Hi there, Mark Sabatella here. In this video, I want to talk about a particular chord in an arrangement of O Come All Ye Faithful that, at least speaking for myself, I heard many times in church growing up. And the reason I want to talk about it is apparently, unbeknownst to me, this chord is a thing. It's a whole thing. In fact, this whole business started when I encountered this picture on a post in Reddit. Someone saying, "What is this? Why is there a shirt with this piece of music on it? Why is this a thing?" And they were trying to sort out what's going on. And I was looking at it, trying to figure out the same. And then everyone piled in and said, "Oh, well, that's from the David Willcocks arrangement of Oh Come All Ye Faithful." And I'm like, really? You know that from one chord? How do you know? How do so many people know that one note? And it turns out it's one that I've noticed before as well. It's a very dramatic moment in this arrangement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you that arrangement. I'm just going to play the passage leading up to that chord, and then I'm going to just unpack a little bit about what's going on with it, all right? So let's listen to a actual recording of that verse. This is the final verse of O Come All Ye Faithful. Here it comes. So that was the passage. So the one point I want to make before I get into any theory about this is it is kind of remarkable that what is actually just a harmonic substitution. It's a cool substitution. I'll unpack it in a minute, but as substitutions go, it's fairly ordinary, really, when you get down to it. It's the kind of thing that I cover in my harmony course, but it's really well done, and it is such a dramatic point in the piece that it really has captured the imagination of a lot of musicians. So choir musicians look forward to that chord. People in the congregations will look forward to hearing that chord because apparently it's only done in the last verse of that song, and by tradition, you only play that arrangement once you reach Christmas, like on Christmas midnight mass, and people are saying, "Oh yeah, it's not Christmas until I hear that chord." So it's kind of remarkable that just a harmonic little trick, a reharmonization, can instill that level of passion in people. And so it's worth taking a look at. So what I'm going to do here is play you the kind of classic arrangement of it so we can hear where it's coming from, all right? So I'm just going to play like 6 bars worth here, and you'll hear what the original harmonizations were. It's going to be this chord, word, and then word of the Father, basically. But let's listen. So it's a fine arrangement, right? It doesn't have that same oomph, though, when you get to that word of the Father, right? So let's take a look at what is going on in the actual David Willcocks arrangement. By the way, if you look at the original arrangement, you'll see it's almost completely diatonic. There's just a secondary dominant here. I have it notated as dominant 2/7, but of course it's 5 of 5, right? So it's totally diatonic, other than this little 5 of 5 leading up to the word. All right, now let's look at, I hope I entered this all right. If I entered a wrong note, I apologize, but I think I've entered all these notes right. And let's take a listen to that passage again, and then I'm just going to show you where that chord comes from. Okay, So what we can see just looking at the chord itself is it's a B half diminished chord, right? So in the key of G, which is where we are, it is the 3 chord. The 3 chord as a half diminished chord. And what's going on with it, and so it's not diatonic, right? It's got that F natural, and of course half diminished chords are, they have a nice darkness, a nice color to them. They're not all that unusual. So what's happening here is we have a tonicization of the 2 chord in the next measure. We have B half diminished to E to A minor, right? So it's basically a 2-5-1 in A minor being the key of 2. So as far as that goes, it's just a secondary 2-5 leading to 2. So the power comes from this big buildup in the organ, right? That arpeggio, that big powerful buildup, and the fact that normally that chord isn't a dramatic point, but so it comes as such a surprise the first time you hear it. But let's just talk a little bit more about this passage. So we have the secondary 2-5 leading to A minor. But why A minor? That's not the original chord here, or is it? The original chord here is more like this. So it's kind of an A minor chord. It's really more of an F sharp diminished chord, resolving to 1. But what Willcocks is doing here is he's not ready to resolve to 1. What he does, because if you notice here, there is not a 1 chord in this passage, not until the next phrase. He is really kind of targeting this 6 here. So if I play the original, it's that 6 chord there that he is, in a sense, targeting. And so when I say that he's targeting it, well, what do I mean by that? If we work backwards from that 6, because from here on out, it's basically the same. What Willcocks has is essentially the same as the original. The original is 6-2-5 diatonic, 6 diatonic 2, and then 5. And Willcocks is 6 major 2. 5. So again, a secondary dominant, not all that unusual. So it's all about how he's going to get to this 6 chord, because the original is all these diatonic chords leading to 6. But what Willcocks does is say, hey, let's put a secondary 2-5 leading to that 6 chord. And actually, he doesn't do a 6 chord. He doesn't do a 2-5. He does a 4-5. So let's think about that. In the key of E minor, the 4 would be A minor. The 5 is B, right? So 4-5-1 would be a diatonic 4-5-1, a tonicization of that E minor, the 6 chord. So one thing that he's doing is, well, instead of making it A minor, he's got an A major chord at the beginning of that measure. Why? Well, in part so he can have this nice stepwise bass line leading up to it. But remember that major 4 chords, well, that's totally a thing in a minor key. You're totally allowed to have, because the whole melodic minor, right, where you have either 6th, right, the key of E minor has a C natural as far as the key signature goes, but C sharp is a note that's part of the melodic minor scale. So major 4 chords are definitely a thing. So he's got major 4 to 5 to 1 in E minor. And that's what's going on in this measure. The previous measure then is like saying, I'm going to give you 2 tonicizations of that 6 chord. It wasn't enough just to have 4-5-1 in E minor, but he actually does another 4-5 and then 4-5-1, right? So it's like this double tonicization of that E minor chord. So it's all about getting us to that E minor chord. And then, now that we've established we're going to have this A minor chord to start the proceedings there, now he's like, well, let's give you a tonicization of that A minor chord also. So we have a tonicization, right? Tonicization of the A minor chord. But then the A minor chord starts a tonicization of E minor. A minor to B, A to B to E minor. And then completes the circle of fifths with another A going to D. Circle of fifths, 6, 2, 5. So that is what is actually going on in that passage. It's kind of about setting up this interesting series of tonicizations of that 6 chord that happens to involve a 2 chord, right? That 2 chord here, A minor, the 2 chord in the key of G, but it's the 4 of 6. And then, so that t-shirt chord, right? The chord that was actually there on the t-shirt. Let's take a look at that again. There it is. It's that chord right there. It's that B half diminished chord. The t-shirt chord there is the start of the tonicization of that 2 chord. So this is what's happening. It's all techniques that are learnable, right? This is tonicizations, basically. This is knowing how to work with a tonicization in a minor key, 4, 5, 1 in minor keys, and use of secondary dominants. But when you do this well, you create this wonderful buildup, this arpeggiation in the organ building up to this high note here, the F being above the melody, and it builds this huge climax. You get this sound, and let's just listen to it again here. So, this is the power of harmony. I'm not saying every time anyone ever does a reharmonization, it becomes one of these things that people look forward to all year long to hear at the midnight mass or something, but harmony can be a really powerful device, and this is one I literally just learned about a couple of days ago when someone posted that picture of the t-shirt, and it caused me to do a little research into what was going on. I realized it was a chord I had been hearing all my life, and I had always enjoyed it. I just didn't know it was such a thing, but it is.